Hey, 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 stuffers! Ever wondered what happens when you put three guys in a room who all think they're Jesus Christ? Spoiler alert! It's not a miracle, it's a mess. Alex here, and welcome back to Stuff with Alex. Now picture this. It's 1959. You're in a psychiatric hospital in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Three men, Clyde, Joseph, and Leon, all sincerely, passionately, deeply believe they're Jesus Christ. Not like Jesus, not inspired by him. Nope, the real deal. And then a psychologist comes in and says, what if I put all three together and just see what happens? Yeah, this is either groundbreaking science or the setup for the weirdest sitcom NBC never aired. Today, we're diving into the bizarre, darkly funny, and kinda sad story of the three Christs of Ypsilanti. And trust me, this one is wild. And maybe, just maybe, it tells us something about the way we live today, when everyone online thinks they're the chosen one. We start in post-World War II America. The economy is booming, Elvis is shaking his hips on TV, and psychiatry is, well, pretty medieval. This was the era before Prozac, before therapy podcasts, before Instagram therapists telling you to hydrate and cut toxic people out of your life. Nope. The 1950s psychiatric world was all about institutionalization. Big, looming state hospitals where people were tucked away for decades. Out of sight, out of mind. Ypsilanti State Hospital in Michigan was one of those places. Thousands of patients, sterile hallways, treatments that today would make you shudder. Electroshock, insulin comas, lobotomies. If you checked in, odds are you weren't checking out. Into this world walks Dr. Milton Rokeach, a psychologist with big ideas. Rokeach wasn't the sit-and-listen therapist. He was the poke the bear and see what happens kind of guy. A man fascinated by belief, identity, and delusion. And when he found not one, not two, but three patients in Ypsilanti, all claiming they were the Jesus Christ, his mind lit up like a Christmas tree. This wasn't just weird, it was an opportunity. Rokeach thought, what happens when three absolute truths collide? Clyde Benson, an alcoholic veteran, widowed, broken, and clinging to his delusion that he was Christ to cope with loss. His Jesus was the suffering servant. Joseph Castle, a farmer turned recluse, whose religious obsession turned into full-blown messianic delusion. His Christ was mystical, always receiving divine messages. Leon Gabor, raised under a domineering mother, smart but unstable. His Christ was the warrior Messiah, here to expose lies and imposters. And so begins the strangest roommate situation in history. Stuffers, smash that like button if you've ever had a roommate who thought they were God. Or worse, a roommate who acted like they were.
First meeting. Imagine it. A drab hospital room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. 3 chairs, 3 men. Hello, I'm Jesus Christ. No, I am Jesus Christ. You're both insane because I am the true Christ. If you've ever been on Twitter, this was basically that, but in person. Everyone's convinced they're right. No one's budging. The men immediately clashed. Each had constructed their entire identity around being unique, chosen, divine. Seeing two duplicates was like looking in a cracked mirror. How could they both be Jesus? Logic short-circuited. Leon, the sharpest of the bunch, often mocked the others. Clyde grew defensive, angry. Joseph retreated into theology, spinning wild rationalizations. They must be deluded by evil forces. Instead of divine harmony, what emerged was passive-aggressive warfare. Group therapy turned into group heresy. But if you think that's bad, wait until you hear what the doctor started doing. Because Rokeach wasn't just watching, he was pushing buttons. Now here's where things get ethically dicey. Dr. Rokeach didn't just want to observe. He wanted to experiment. He began introducing fake letters, supposedly from higher authorities, the hospital director, government officials, even God himself. Each letter contradicted the Christs in subtle ways. The result? Chaos. Joseph received letters from God affirming his mission, but only to then contradict him later. Clyde was told by supposed officials that his wife was alive, which shook him deeply. Leon, ever suspicious, saw the trickery, but redirected the blame. The staff were demons trying to deceive him. Rokeach's manipulations were, at best, a mind game, at worst, cruelty. Today, this experiment would never pass an ethics board. Back then, it was, hey, let's see what happens if we gaslight 3 delusional men at once. And the doctor himself? He started realizing something spooky. Maybe he was playing God. In his journals, he admitted later that he was just as caught up in delusion, the delusion that he had the right to shatter these men's realities for science. Drop your wildest theory in the comments. Was Rokeach the 4th delusional guy in the room?
Let's be real. Parts of this were funny. Leon once declared, "You're all phonies," in peak Holden Caulfield energy. Joseph wrote letters not just to God, but to the Pope, the Queen of England, and random officials, demanding recognition of his holiness. Clyde got so mad at the others, he stormed out of therapy like a diva. It was slapstick theology, keeping up with the Christs. But peel back the laughter, and it's heartbreaking. Each man was clinging to being Christ, because without that, their identity collapsed. They weren't crazy for fun. They were traumatized men holding on to the one story that made sense of their pain. The comedy of delusion was undercut by the tragedy of broken lives. And yet, as absurd as this was in the 1960s, doesn't it feel familiar today? Don't we live in a world of competing Christs right now?
Rokeach published his book, The Three Christs of Ypsilanti, in 1964. It made waves, but also raised eyebrows. Was it brilliant? Cruel? Both. The men never got better. They stayed institutionalized, still clinging to their identities. For them, the experiment wasn't an academic footnote. It was their life. For psychology, it became a cautionary tale about the hubris of thinking you can outsmart delusion, about the dangers of treating patients as lab rats. Rokeach himself later admitted he had crossed a line, that maybe the experiment revealed more about his Messiah complex than theirs.
Here's the deep question. What's the difference between faith and delusion? If three men in a hospital say they're Jesus, we call it madness. But when 1 billion people worship Jesus worldwide, we call it religion. Same story, different scale. Humans need belief. Without it, life feels meaningless. But belief can also become a prison. For Clyde, Joseph, and Leon, it was both. Now zoom forward to today. We see the same thing in conspiracy communities. Whole groups convinced they alone know the truth, while everyone else is brainwashed. I'm the chosen one. I've got the red pill knowledge. Sound familiar? Stuffers, be honest. What's the wildest conspiracy theory you've ever half believed at 3 a.m. on YouTube?
This is where history meets the present. The Three Christ story is basically a prototype of the internet in 2025. Multiple self-proclaimed truth-tellers, each certain they're right, locked in a digital asylum called Twitter. Modern cults and online conspiracy movements work the same way. QAnon, flat earthers, doomsday prophets on TikTok, all convinced they're the one true Christ of truth. And when they clash, chaos, mockery, division. Ypsilanti's three Christs were locked in a ward. Today's Christs are live streaming on Rumble. But what if the next Messiah isn't even human? What if the next Christ comes from your phone?
Here's the modern curveball. AI as a new Christ. Think about it. People already ask chatbots for life advice, prophecy, even spiritual guidance. Some treat AI like an oracle. Combine that with deep fakes and algorithmic echo chambers, and suddenly your digital feed is telling you, I alone have the truth. Sound familiar? That's Leon, Joseph, and Clyde. Except now, it's the algorithm deciding who gets to be Christ. And the scariest part? Unlike three guys in Michigan, AI Christs scale to millions instantly. That's not a ward. That's a worldwide delusion machine.
This story even inspired a 2020 film, Three Christs, starring Richard Gere. Pop culture loves the Messiah complex. From the Matrix, where Neo is the One, to Kanye West literally calling himself Yeezus, society is obsessed with saviors. Every election cycle, politicians step up with subtle or not so subtle messiah branding. Only I can fix it. Influencers on TikTok say, I alone know how to heal your trauma. Tech billionaires promise to save humanity with Mars. The Messiah complex didn't die in Ypsilanti. It just got better branding.
And so, Stuffers, what do we actually take away from the three Christs of Ypsilanti? On the surface, it's this bizarre comedy of errors. Three men in the same room, all convinced they're Jesus Christ, all trying to out-Messiah each other. But beneath the humor, it's really a story about human loneliness, about how desperately people need meaning, and about what happens when reality fractures into three incompatible truths. Sound familiar? Because that's not just 1959 Ypsilanti. That's 2025 Earth. Today, we don't need padded hospital walls to watch people spin in their own little universes. We just need to scroll through TikTok, or a conspiracy subreddit, or that one uncle's Facebook page who swears he cracked the code of the universe after watching 3 YouTube videos and a Joe Rogan clip. We've basically created a digital Ypsilanti, except instead of 3 Christs, we've got millions of them, each convinced they alone hold the truth, each ready to argue with anyone who dares to disagree. So what do we do with that? Do we laugh? Do we despair? Or do we try to do better? I think the answer is this. We've got to learn to hold truth with humility, to recognize that even if we think we're right, even if we think we've got the universe on speed dial, maybe, just maybe, we're still human. And being human means being wrong sometimes. We've got to listen more, argue less, and remember that real strength isn't in pretending to be a messiah, but in being honest about our limits. It's in empathy. It's in not using people as experiments or punching bags just to prove a point, like Rokeach did. It's in realizing that behind every wild claim, whether it's "I'm the Son of God" or "the lizard people run the government," is still a person, trying in their own broken way to make sense of a chaotic world. The Bible says in Proverbs 4:7, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding." And man, doesn't that hit harder now than ever? Because if there's one thing we need in 2025, it's wisdom. Not more messiahs, not more noise, not more echo chambers. Just wisdom. Okay, thanks for watching. Peace out. Goodbye, guys.